Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Norton, founder of People Plus Purpose, and your host on this episode of the Truth Behind Dentistry podcast. And today, I am thrilled to bring you my guest, Jessica Martin. Jessica is the owner of Martin Management Consulting and the co-owner of Martin Dental, a successful dental spa in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. She is a licensed school psychologist and helps medical professionals understand why patients feel anxiety or fear at the dentist and other medical appointments. Jessica has created strategies for dental offices to remove some of the most common barriers to dental care, and she loves sharing ways to make the experience positive for every patient. Jessica has been involved in leadership positions for 2 networking organizations for the past 8 years and has helped over 90 business professionals thrive and be more successful. So welcome to the podcast, Jessica.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. I've very much been looking forward to this conversation because I know you have great stuff to share and we're already friends. And so that makes it even nicer. So this is the Truth Behind Dentistry podcast, and as a result, we kind of want to reveal some truths, right? What uh, at least the truths as you see them, right? What pull back the curtain and peek. So maybe we can start with, what are some hidden gems maybe that have helped make you and your husband's practice as successful as it is?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's sort of simple. My husband has always really focused his dentistry on quality care. And at every decision throughout the longevity of our business, that's always been at the heart of it, that we provide our patients with the highest quality of care we can. And that's really informed everything we've done since the very beginning. We truly believe that if we can take care of people the way we would want to be treated, and with that same concern and care with the materials we use and the amount of time it takes and answering all the questions and making sure people are comfortable, then people will take care of us. And it's worked. We've seen that unfold throughout the years. And I know that sounds really simple, but if I think that's the foundation of everything that we've done to be successful.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so would how many of the listeners do you think would say, yeah, we do that? I mean, that's what we do, and far be it from us to dispute that for anybody. But what do you think for those people where it might be falling somewhat short? Why do you think that is? I mean, because you'd say, well, of course we want to provide the highest level of precise care, quality care. What's getting in the way, do you think?
That's a great question. I think that is probably how everyone regards what they do. I think it's a matter of your standards and your values in that, though. You know, it goes into everything. It's the supplies that you order. It's the team that you have, as part of your business. It's the amount of time you're willing to schedule for certain procedures. And I think a lot of clinicians probably start out that way, feeling like, okay, I'm going to do everything by the book or of the highest caliber. And then we start thinking about things like production goals and, being profitable. And I think that's the moment that sometimes those things start to get overlooked. And unfortunately, what happens in that long-term scenario is that patients are really the ones that suffer in that. And when we turn healthcare into a profitable business, not that it has to be it has to be profitable. It is still a business, it's not a hobby, but I think sometimes the sight of that is lost because we are trying to also focus on the business. And unfortunately, in dentistry, there's just not enough training in how to run a business. And so, someone that's, coming into a practice that doesn't really understand the economics of it, that doesn't have an MBA and doesn't have an accounting degree, is maybe going to cut corners that they wouldn't otherwise cut just for the sake of trying to run a profitable business.
Yeah, that's good. I think also like the mission, either there was never a fully clarified mission, like at the deepest level, why are we doing this? What is the ultimate outcome purpose that we want to have? Or if we had it, that maybe we've lost it along the way. I think it's not hard in the dailiness of business demands and the pace maybe that we have to work to then lose sight of some of that deeper driving inspiration, which I think may cause us to either make some decisions that are not best for patient experience um, and to have it be at the highest quality, or we're not even making those conscious decisions. We're just getting lost somehow in the transactions of the day. Does that seem like that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think burnout, especially since COVID has, transformed all of our lives to an extent, burnout's been huge for the doctors, for the team, for everybody. And so the more we struggle just to get through the day, the more we're in survival mode, it changes how we think about things and what our standards are. It's like anything, right? Like we all go into something like parenting, for example, which is another huge, role in life if you choose it. And we all have the best of intentions. And this starts out, right? You're like, oh, my kid's never gonna sass me, and they're gonna go to bed on time, and we're gonna have this structure. And then life happens and it gets messy, and you start to relax in certain areas and cut corners, but you still think, I'm like a decent parent. And it kind of becomes good enough because like you're tired and you're exhausted. And, to
Yeah.
just liken it to another huge aspect of a lot of people's lives over time, some of that just starts to deteriorate because of the everyday wear and tear of life. And so I think you're right. Without that solid vision and continuing to come back to that, it's easy to lose sight of some of those details.
Yeah. Well, because we know each other, of my inspiration sources assessment. So sometimes too, I think that if some of those deeper driving inspiration sources are not being met, then sometimes that's leads to unfulfillment or it leads to boredom. Sometimes people have more creative drives um, that they get lulled into the routines of just what I have to do to keep making a living, that they've lost that sense of creativity. There's no time to keep refining that, or I'm not learning as many new things lately. And so, because I don't have time to do that, but that can erode, I think, the inspiration, which it makes sense that that would produce some less quality in some way, that it'd be hard to keep that up if you're fading a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, just the energy. I don't know. I'm not a dentist myself, but I see it in my husband. The energy it takes to do the clinical aspects of dentistry is very taxing. And so he always tries his best. I truly believe that. But I know when he's in kind of a mental rut, like the dentistry gets harder and he'll have more redos and he gets really frustrated with himself on that. And so I think some of that's just the human experience, and it's really finding ways to stay in that flow state and not have as many of those ups and downs and get out of those funks when they occur, because it's inevitable that they will occur at some point.
Yeah. So, in terms of what else may be unique, special about you and your husband's practice, that may add to that success. I know that you have focused on patient experience. You focused on having, maybe it's in general it's patient experience, and maybe sometimes more precisely, it's having a more spa-like environment that makes for a unique, compelling contribution to have. But how much would you say some of those specific choices that you've made have contributed to your success?
I mean, it's hard to quantify, but I would say 80% of I mean, the quality has to be there. That's like the foundation and that's the reputation, but the ability to help our patients with anxiety to create a better, markedly different experience has really helped it to become a magnet for people that have those values, that they want that. And so it's hard for me to say. If we had never put the dental spa approach in place, how would we be doing? I have no way to know. I just know that before we really were intentional about patient experience specific to comfort amenities and addressing dental anxiety, we were kind of stuck. We were at a plateau production wise that we just didn't know how to break out of. And when we were able to differentiate and give people that wow feeling when they were leaving, that's when we really saw the growth start to kick up. And so I think it's been a huge, huge part of what's given us the success we have, and really allowed us to do so many things, like get out of insurance networks and build a beautiful building, and do the things that we've always wanted to do but didn't know were possible.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, what percentage of people, and I don't know if you would know the answer, but uh, have dental anxiety, or just in general, really, when it comes down to it, hate going to the dentist. Like, I'd almost rather go anywhere else today than to go do that. Or and the idea of going to some place where there's some comfort amenities, that almost seems like some completely oxymoronic kind of combination, right? So, I mean, so that to me, that makes sense that that would be a contributor to success, because you're helping overcome people's seemingly natural resistance to even going.
Right. I mean, I've done a lot of research on the topic, and it's there's a lot of different statistics out there, but it's about 70% of the population dislikes dentistry in some way, shape, or form. And so that's a lot of people. That's the majority of people. And for some people, that looks like, they come in for care, they do their routine things, but they might hesitate to do some of the bigger work because they're not excited about it. And for others, it's literally you don't see them until it hurts. And so there's a huge range of what people are willing to tolerate and how anxious they are about it, but it does impact most of our patients. And so when we can make it different and better, we can capture all of that and really help them move through the process to gain optimal oral health. And then it's fun for them to share too, when they're able to overcome something that was really scary or uncomfortable, and then they've gotten through it really successfully. Like, that's wonderful word of mouth that you can't buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important. So I mean, there'll be doctors who already own practices that are watching us. There'll be associates who are thinking about owning a practice. There may be other people that would have an interest in this particular question I'm going to ask, uh, given their ancillary roles, maybe. But uh, what do you think is kind of the most misunderstood part of owning a dental practice, peering behind the curtain again?
The most misunderstood piece. I guess I didn't know how much work would go into it. I think if you really care a lot about it and you want all the things to run well, and you're in a growth mode where you want to leave behind a legacy, I think it's a big job. And it is like running a mini hospital, essentially, with the investment in technology and the irreversible things you're doing to people. It's significant. And i didn't I didn't realize that not only is like the dentistry itself is challenging and difficult, that's one thing, but then owning the business is like a whole other full-time job. And I don't want to scare anybody away from business ownership. It's wonderful, but it is pretty consuming. And I think it does take time to get your systems, underway and running well and efficiently. And that's part of, why I do the work I do now, to help people with that. Because I think in the beginning of our journey, we didn't know what we were doing to a large degree, and didn't really know how to improve it or what to do to make it better. And if you have someone that can guide you through that, it's like then you're not having to bear that all alone, and you can get to those places of success much quicker. Um, yeah, I just think most of even like our family doesn't realize like how time consuming it is. Like our parents will call on the weekend and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we're working on some stuff." I'm like, "Why are you working? It's Sunday." And we're like, "Because we own a business." So um, it's definitely gotten better. Over time, our business is established and we've been in practice since 2010. So it's not like it was in the very beginning, but it's almost, I liken it to parenting again. Like it's almost like the early stages are like having an infant, and it just takes a lot of energy and a lot of care and a lot of time. And as the business grows and matures, you're able to let it do its thing a little bit more, but you still worry about it. It's like
Right.
always there, right?
Yeah.
So I liken it to that.
Yeah. Yeah. The mini hospital. I kind of like, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but that makes sense to me.
Well, and then there's all these regulations, like, keeping up with your OSHA handbook and making sure everyone's got their CPR training up to date. And then you've got team coming and going with turnover. And like, there's just a lot of moving parts with specifically with dentistry that I think make it really challenging if you don't have key people involved, if you're not a natural leader, if you don't have support like from someone like you, Matthew, that can, help guide them in how to maximize on their strengths. It's just there's a lot to it. And I think most dentists going into it probably don't realize all the things they might need or that they could put in place or to invest in themselves to be most successful, just to super speed past some of that extra stress that they would have.
Yeah, that's good. So related to that, I know based upon your experience, I know being a psychologist being one factor, but then also your experience with this practice that your husband runs, um, that there's things you've learned and there's things that have inspired you and you have a passion for and experience and skill sets to be able to guide. So just thinking about the impact that you're having in your work, and maybe you can share what are some of those impact areas in the practice that you're helping to support doctors with.
Yeah, I think I find a lot of fulfillment in just knowing that once I've worked with a practice, that every patient they interact with and every interaction they have with every patient they interact with will likely be more positive. I think that that's a huge that's it's huge for people. I mean, it's thousands of people over the course of a year or so for each practice. And so that brings me a lot of fulfillment knowing that most offices have things in decent order, but there's really small details that don't take a lot of extra effort that we can improve and make it so much better for the patient. And so I think that's fulfilling for the team as well when they can, hear stories from their patients like, that you guys are the first office I've really trusted to do all of this care that I've needed for years. And I feel comfortable coming here now. That as a team, I think it's an honor and it's very rewarding to be the chosen office that that person now trusts with their care. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else I would add to
Well,
that.
I mean, so you focus in part and you offer coaching help in that realm of patient experience and what would that be like to convert to somewhat, at least somewhat more of a spa-like environment. But then you've got a couple of other areas of service offering to help doctors in other areas to be more successful, right? So tell us a little bit about those too.
Yeah, sure. So when I started working with other offices other than ours, I really was focused on, teaching other offices how to be dental spas. I thought, well, everybody should want to do this. This is amazing. We have all this great feedback. Everybody wants this. Well, yeah, I had some clients, but I also had people say, that sounds lovely, but I also need help with my front office team systems. Like I just feel like I'm probably not as being as profitable as I can be. My stuff's just not optimized. And so I was like, okay, well, actually that's how I got into dentistry was my husband needed me to run the front of the dental office for a good chunk of time. So I know front office systems. So I added a program where I actually will go in and observe what they're doing and just make sure all the systems that there are to running a dental office in terms of the front are in order, and not only in order and optimized, but also through the lens of that patient experience again, because it's great to ask for money the day of service and get that cash flow in hand, but there's a way to do it so that your patients don't feel like that's all you care about. So there's a system, but then there's also that human component of it and the soft skills that go along with it. And so that's some of the work I do as well, is to teach the team how to, run these systems for the benefit of the office, but then also from that patient experience perspective, making sure it all just feels really wonderful. And, a lot of my clients will see increases of production, like $1,000 extra in daily average production once we've,
Right.
looked at things, which I'm like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And it's not a painful adjustment. It's just doing things a little bit differently, whether it's looking at the schedule, whether it's the way they're confirming things, how they're handling cancels and no fails. Like there's a lot of little ways that we can look at how things are being done to make things more profitable and more effective for the business. So that's one piece of it. And then again, as the business evolved, I saw the need for, helping offices get out of insurance networks. And that came from our experience as we grew, as we got more in demand, as our waiting lists became extensive and we raised fees and we did all these other things. And we're like, we're having to limit how many new patients we see in a month, which is a wonderful thing. Now we're ready to get out of network. We don't need an insurance network relationship any longer. And the only one we had left was Delta Premier. And it still felt like a leap of faith. It was very emotional. It was stressful to do it because we were the only office in our community to make that leap. And we did it. And it's been very successful. And so during that process, I was also thinking, well, I wish someone could guide us through this because it just felt like we were in the dark. Like, are we making the right choice? Are we saying it the right way? What is the timing like? And we just we figured it out, but we definitely made our mistakes. And so now I can help other offices through that process, kind of hold their hand, walk with them through the emotions of it, give them a great timeline, give them scripts for the team, train the team, educate the patients, do all the things. And when you have a plan, it feels so much more like you're in control of executing this process. And so and you can think through of like, well, if this happens and things don't go the way we want and we don't retain as many patients as we'd hoped, we've already planned what we're going to do at that time. We have already planned how we're going to attract more new patients that aren't insurance driven. So that's been super rewarding too, because I know for so many private practice dentists, like they're just sick after looking at those month reports, year-end reports are coming, and they're like, oh my gosh, all these adjustments I've made for these insurance relationships, it's just sickening. And it's hard to continue to provide that quality care that they really want to do. Going back to the beginning of, yeah, the intentions are great, but if I'm only getting, 60% of my fee, how do I justify using this really expensive lab that I know would be better? Or how do I justify buying the most expensive adhesive, which I know is going to last longer for the patient when I'm only getting this much for that? So that's super rewarding as well to just see offices be able to liberate themselves from that and have more freedom to do the dentistry they want to do and for patients.
Yeah. I love the combination of those three things that you offer, and they all kind of with a psychologist at the center of them, kind of, because they all make sense that they play off of each other, that you need those front office systems to be optimized enough to be able to not have them be a distraction or shooting yourself in the foot while you're trying to do something special for patients. Uh, but that also that point of getting to where you go, okay, the insurance model just isn't working. So for those people that are watching us who say, yeah, it does make me sick to look at those statistics, right? I agree with you. And yet some might be saying, I don't know. I'm still holding back. I still don't feel comfortable. I'm not sure I can do that. Or for the people who say, I still don't really see. I mean, isn't that intrinsic to how things are done that we would continue to be doing that? I mean, what would you say to any of those voices who would struggle with this insurance liberation approach?
Yeah, I think that's the comfort zone, right? Like they're just stuck in the way that it's been always done and they're scared to get out of that comfort zone. And I completely can appreciate that. But um most of the magic in life happens outside of the comfort zone. And it's not like I'm suggesting people just, take a leap and figure it out and, build the parachute on the way down, right? I mean, let's plan it out. For
Right.
some offices that I talk with, they're nowhere near ready. They might need like 4 to 5 years to get to that point because of the way that they've been practicing, the way they've set up their relationships with their patients, how they've been attracting patients, all the networks they're involved in, right? It's a process, but we can get there if we're doing quality dentistry. Again, back to like, if you're going to do chop shop dentistry, then how would anybody justify paying even a little bit more for what you do versus a doctor that's in their network, right? You have to be able to offer something a little bit exceptional. And so that's, again, back to that foundational piece of like, if you're willing to do your best and provide the best care you can provide, now you've got a leg to stand on to say, okay, this is why you choose us. And this is why you might have to pay a little bit more if we're out of network with your insurance. So I think it is possible. It just, everyone comes at this at a different point in time. It's all about moving the practice in that direction. And that's what's cool about the the three programs I offer,
Mhm.
which again, none of this was ever part of my plan. I didn't in my 20s go, I'm going to be a dental consultant. Like none of it was
Right.
planned. I did not plan to work with my husband. I did not plan to work in dentistry. Had my own career as a psychologist. So I think I do believe I've been guided in this to help others. And it's really the three programs are just the journey that our office took to become so successful. We started with system, just that was survival. I had to get in there and figure it out and revamp our systems, make them better. And then we started looking at differentiating, providing a unique experience, using that to market the practice differently, to stand out. That created, growth and demand, and then insurance came. So it is an evolution. And I think, some of my clients come and they're like, I'm ready to drop, help me do it. And that's great if they're at that point, but not everybody is there. So I understand the skepticism that might go into like, I have no idea how
Right.
to get from here to there. That's the process.
Right. Right. That's great. Very well said. That whole combination I thought was really good. Um, so I was going to ask you something else there, but so as we wrap up, I mean, as you look ahead then in dentistry, are there any particular shifts or places of extra focus that you see coming? Does that tie into the specific work you're doing, or are there other things that you see coming that might be of value to those that are watching us?
I mean, I think, dentistry just becoming more and more technologically advanced and driven. So I think keeping up with that is paramount. I think patients more than ever are advocates for themselves with their healthcare, with their dentistry. And so if they've heard about the latest, thing, they might be searching for that. And so keeping up to date enough to be relevant, I think is important to stay successful in the industry, and always just keeping that the patient experience component paramount will continue to be important. I do think that as the DSO growth continues to, um, kind of swallow smaller practices, I think that in order for private practice doctors to survive through that and be successful, to be able to stand and say, hey, this is what we're doing versus this is what they're doing, I think there does need to be some sort of unique component. And I believe that this is the way to the unique component that we can stand on. That's amazing. There's probably others, but
Mhm.
um, I think this is the way that we're going to survive, if you will, the grouping up of dentistry, and I think it is trying to move in more of like our general healthcare model, which most of us can probably argue is pretty broken. So I'm excited to help those people out there that don't want to shift in that direction, that want to stay, autonomous and say, hey, I want to make decisions for my patients and not have some corporate business person in a building downtown tell me what I can do and what I need to use, what material I need to use, and what production goal I need to hit. I just think it's sad, and we've got to find a way to kind of fight against that, or it's inevitable that we get swallowed up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on all that. And I know we've spoken before about unique, compelling contribution. I like to challenge people, especially if they're thinking about getting out of insurance or moving in that direction, is to get clear and be able to answer, why are you the only practice that is able to, why would you be seen in the mind of that consumer, that patient, as the only choice? Not
Right.
just that you're the best choice, but you're the only choice. And what I'll get back initially is I'm not even sure we're the best, let alone the only. So then there's work to do. Like, what is that combination of things that is you and what you do and the ambiance, the mission, the passionate enthusiasm? What is it that where people go, I don't care what it costs. If I have to pay more, I'll do it because you're my only choice. You are it. I'm not
Yeah,
going
well, and
to.
that's why I love the work you do too, is that you're helping people stand in their gifts and keep moving toward what they were made to do. I think a lot of adults don't take the time to understand themselves well enough or take the time to think about what is my purpose? What am I here for? What am I going to leave behind when this is all done? I mean, people are just kind of going through the motions like, it's my job. This is what I do. I work for the weekend or whatever. And I just think the more we all can get in that working with our gifts and working with how we were meant to be serving the world, the more impact we can make and the more we can attract the people that we're supposed to have in our lives. And that's true for our individual relationships, but it's also true for business ownership, right? Like, especially if you're in a community that's sort of tight knit, like when you can stand in your strengths and be the best version of yourself, other people can feel that and see that, and the energy in that is really profound, and you'll get natural attraction to your practice because you shine.
Yeah, I think that's an important message. And thank you for the compliment recognition there as well. So, well, this has been wonderful. I appreciate you, who you are, what you do, and what you've shared with us today. So I'm trusting that there are people watching that are thinking that was exactly what I needed to hear. And if they want to connect with you to learn more about your offerings, what's the best way to do that?
Yes, right on my website, which is martinmanagementllc.com. You can take an assessment to just see, what aspects of your practice you think would be a good starting point to prioritize. And then there's also a way to connect with me right from there as well to get time in my calendar.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank
Appreciate your
you.
time and what you brought today. So
Yes, thank you. And I didn't realize this was going to be on video. So I just letting everyone know this is my ugly sweater for the holidays. So I don't know when this is airing, but I'm like, oh no.
it should be out right around still in the holiday time. So you'd probably be safe. If it wasn't until next spring or summer, people might be wondering. But so thanks for that
I
clarification.
am sane. I just am festive.
Right. Okay. This has been Matthew Norton with my guest Jessica Martin from Martin Management. And we just thank you for watching the Truth Behind Dentistry podcast. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.